Say what?
Okay, we're live. Hello.
Hello.
Are we
Okay.
live already?
Yeah.
Great.
So everybody ready?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, good. Okay. Welcome to Online with the Pros, organized by Band Conductors Association Singapore. I'm Sean here, and today we have the Bassoon panel. Three very established bassoonists here, and they will be sharing with you more about the bassoon and technical difficulties and any questions that you would like to ask. So maybe we can start off with some introduction first. Maybe let's start with Mok Chok. Mok Chok, maybe tell us a little bit about yourselves and what are you doing and how has your journey been as a bassoon player?
Okay, so yeah, hello everyone, I'm Mok Chong. So I picked up the bassoon like most of us probably in secondary school band. So I was from Catholic High School Symphonic Band. I actually picked up the clarinet first, and then after I switched to bassoon. Yeah, because bassoon is one of the more difficult instruments. Usually switch over from saxophone or clarinet. Yeah. Then after that I went to study at Yong Siew Toh Conservatory. I just graduated and I'm teaching a few schools. Some of you may know me as a tutor. I teach at RI, Catholic High School, just to name a few. And I will be continuing my studies in Germany after the COVID situation gets better. So yeah.
Great. So Mok Chok, how was your auditions been in Germany?
Oh, yeah. So obviously, it's very highly competitive. Then the audition process is very nerve-wracking. You have to prepare rather, a full set of pieces, maybe like 40 minutes, 50 minutes long. So yeah, but it was also a very interesting and fun experience because you get to play, just treat it as a performance, have fun, and yeah. So
Okay. So Li Hui, would you like to introduce yourself to the audience?
Okay, sure. Hi, I'm Li Hui. Actually, I'm a very fresh graduate. Well, technically, I haven't graduated yet because we are still in this midst of this virus nonsense. So, yeah, but I have completed my 4 years in YST, and I'm looking to continue my studies in a few places. Right now, I have a few options. I'm not going to say where because I haven't decided which I'm going to take yet. But yeah, so that's where I am now. I think same as Mok Chong, I started in secondary school in band. Yeah, and interestingly, I actually chose the bassoon because I thought it looked really strange, and then it was very interesting. So so that's how I chose it actually. I had no idea what it was. I had no idea how it sounded like. I just thought, hey, this looks quite cool, and then I chose it. Yeah, so we had the opportunity, or we were lucky enough to be able to choose our instruments at that time. So that's how I got into playing bassoon. And I was 16, I had my first teacher, which is Mr. Ao Yong right there. Hi. He, he was my first teacher, yeah, and he kind of started my whole journey off. And yeah, so that's how I got, in the end, I came to YST. I studied for 4 years with Zhang Jimin. And yeah, I'm here now.
So how has your studies been in YST? Has it been?
YST, I mean, I had no idea what. Yeah, actually, YST has been very, very fulfilling. I mean, it's in some ways it's so challenging, and at the same time it's so rewarding because like every step of the way, I feel like I'm transforming, and I'm becoming a different person, a different musician. So yeah, in one word, I think it's very fulfilling.
So Ao Yong, would you like to give us a little bit of introduction of yourself?
Please call me Daniel. Don't call me
Okay.
Ao Yong. It sounds like army. Ao Yong, knock it down. Really. So unlike the two fresh graduates, I have graduated a long time ago, and just playing as a freelance with Singapore Symphony, Metropolitan, Opera, Singapore Lyric Opera, etc., and different gigs at Base Entertainment and Marina Bay Sands and all this stuff, and teaching too. So learning journey, I was in Germany well, before I was in Switzerland for 3 years, and I did my postgraduate, and then after that I did my postgraduate master's PhD equivalent in Germany, Munich, as well as my historical performance practices in Munich too, on the Baroque, classical, and romantic bassoon. Yeah. So that's it.
So just so that we can get into the topics that we are going to discuss about, maybe share with me what is one of the biggest challenges that most bassoonists have, that you feel that they have.
Well, most bassoonists, I can't vouch for every bassoon player, but I guess it's always the constant, like, because we are not as many as flute players, like, you're a flute player. We're always kind of like on the low number side. So we always try to do our best and try to make something out of nothing, right? And like reeds, you're like sitting in the room alone making reeds. But now it's very good. Now there's like people sitting together. There's reed classes. Even in Germany, there's now like reed classes. In the past, everyone is working on the reed themselves. But now it's like a subject, like a topic, and people do allocate like 1 hour, 2 hours, and come together, make reeds, share cookies, share cakes, share beer, etc., etc. So it's very fun. Even in YSD, I sometimes see like people do reads together. So before, I think the struggle was people just do things themselves and always trying to get a better bassoon, trying to get a better reed. And then this part is so difficult to play. And then we've got so many keys, over 25 keys, how to play. Flutes only got 7 keys, so easy, right? Ha ha ha.
No.
Oh my god, we're gonna be so hated by the
Flute
We need to
community.
publicize our instrument. There's only 48 people. More hate, more people will come and watch us.
That's true.
So since we are on the topic of reeds, what are the common reed problems and how would you like to solve them? Maybe we can start with Bok Chong first.
Well, for me, I guess the biggest problem I have with reeds is the inconsistency, because reeds by themselves is an organic material, so meaning like it grows differently, like it changes, it warps with the weather, the temperature, everything. So a good reed on one day, the next day it can just totally not work because maybe it rained or maybe it's extremely hot that day, something just to change it completely. So it's like you have to be very, very flexible and sort of like know what to do with the reeds, know when to be patient, know when to work with them. And yeah, it's not easy. It takes many, many years of trial and error and many times dealing with failure, and you don't know why the reeds work like that. And yeah, so Li Hui, what about you?
I mean, I would have to admit that reeds are really not my strong suit. I mean, I have been working the 4 years in YST here, like, and every step of the way, it's you learn new things just by making more. But at the same time, when you make more, you spend time, you spend effort, and you spend money, and you lose a lot of reeds. So I think the best advice out there is if you are making your own reeds and you want to get better, right? Don't be afraid to experiment and not say waste, but spend some good time and effort and money to do it. Because once you invest that kind of time, you will definitely get results. And I mean, like all things, of course, this applies to all things, but there will be a lot of failure when it comes to remaking. And sometimes you just have to perform even if you don't have a good read. And that's part of the learning too. Yeah, so I would say that's the thing about the difficulty for me when it comes to reads is that as in the time where I'm making, I also have to perform, I need to play, so there's always like this limitation of your playing and how much you can improve based on how good your reads are. So to me, that's the difficult part. And of course, the inconsistency and the cane and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
So how about you, Ao Yong? What do you think? Daniel. I'm so used to it.
Sean, you call Ao Yong, I think you'll leave. Can you stop it?
I'll leave. So for me, I agree with the both of them. Reeds are very inconsistent. Depends on the material, where you get it from, and even if you get it from a regular source. I buy box of cane, like thousands and thousands every year. or not every year, maybe every 2 years. So it's always inconsistent, the cane. But luckily the seller that I get from, the cane is pretty decent, and the thickness and density are very even and consistent. So I'm glad for that. Yeah, I don't mind sharing to anybody who wants to buy cane. And even if you want to try just like 5 pieces, you can just contact me after this. And just get 5 pieces. That's what Mo Chong did. He like got a few pieces from me last time.
Oh yeah.
So it's good to try different canes and see which one you like most. And there are different canes for solo playing, for orchestra playing, and for chamber playing, and etc. etc. But I think once you are at the level where you can play really well, all the canes are about the same. Yeah, it's just about whether you have enough air. I mean, do you agree with me? It's about whether you have enough air to fill up the instrument with sound. And then that's where instrument comes in. So instrument is actually the most important thing.
Especially for bassoon, right? It's like it's more so than other instruments, like for example flute. It's like the difference between an intermediate flute and a okay, of course there's gonna be a difference, but the difference is not as large as a student bassoon and a like high-end bassoon. Like it is much more pronounced because the bassoon is so sensitive. The holes have to be drilled so precisely. The angles have to be right, or else intonation goes haywire. The tone, if the wood is not seasoned properly, it also goes haywire. So that is one of the most big parts about playing the bassoon, the instrument. And unfortunately, I think many schools will not have like the best instruments. But of course, the students have to make do with what they have. Yeah.
Yeah, so talking about students having to make do with what they have, what are some of the tools that would a student require to make maybe some read adjustments or to help judge or to help adjust their reads?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, for us, I think in general, like some very basic tools to have is a knife. I have a knife here.
I have a knife here.
Yeah, I have a knife. And a set of pliers. Where's my pliers? Okay, it's over there. Never mind. A set of pliers.
I can see mine. Yeah, a set of pliers. You can get this from any hardware store in Singapore. Yeah, this is very useful in helping to control the strength of the reed. We can talk more about that later. I guess
we need 10 hours for talking about reeds.
Yeah, talk about reeds. This whole session is going to just be about reeds.
Let's not get there, otherwise the viewership will go down.
Correct. Let's not get there. I also don't want to get there.
Okay.
Yeah, then a mandrel also. This is a nice handy mandrel. And I think and this, where is it? And a plug. A plug. Something like that. So yeah, those are the very few basic stuff that I think any sort of readjustment will require. Right?
Okay.
Yeah.
So regarding those tools like for like pliers and the knives, what are the usages for it so that we can help to adjust they can help adjust their own reads, or how band directors can help to suggest what they can do?
So okay, in generally for the let me get it. For the knives, well actually, I mean of course a knife can do a lot of things, but for the knives you can adjust. Actually, okay, how about Mo Chong share this? He's very passionate about this.
Okay, so for students, right, I actually wouldn't recommend using so much of a knife, because the knife, right, is a very dangerous tool in the sense that it can mess up the whole anatomy of the reed. The anatomy of the reed is actually not a straight line. It has more of like, it has like a sort of pattern and sort of like a gradient that you have to follow. And a lot of the students I see, when they try and adjust reeds with their own knives, then they end up doing more like damage than good lah. But what I would recommend, right, is simply pliers. Pliers are very useful and important to adjust the tip opening. So as you can see, the reed is double reed, two reeds put together. So the how wide this tip opening is, right, will vary the response very much. Usually what I see with students is that they have very, very tight embouchure. We'll talk about embouchure later. But you bite down a lot, and then what happens is this whole thing just closes. And then the student will find, number one, they cannot play low notes because there is just not enough strength in the reed. And also the tone is not very good. So usually what you can do is you take a mandrel. If you don't have a mandrel, you can also do it without, but usually we do it with. And then simply with the pliers, pinch the side. You can see, wait, as you can see here, you just pinch it very slightly, and then you can actually open up the tip opening. And then this will help you to get it back a little bit on track. So that's one of the most simplest things that you can do. Yeah. Anything to add? Maybe Daniel? Don't know what to call him.
Sorry, what do you say? There was a bit
do you have anything to add regarding reed adjustment? I just talked a little bit about the pliers and how you can adjust the tip opening.
If you don't even want to spend money on knife, you can get a pen knife from Daiso. Daiso will be good enough, or just any sharp knife. And then adjustments, leave it to the teachers because it's so difficult to adjust properly and not break it. I mean, I broke like almost 100 reeds at least before I started to begin to make a good reed, begin to make a mediocre reed. So pliers will be good, but the best would be to leave it to a teacher or the person who sells you the reed, all right? And best, I want to recall an incident when I was young. I actually went to a particular music shop in Singapore, tested them, and he said, no testing. Then I said, okay, I just look at the reed. If it's pretty, I'll buy it. Okay, so I look at the reed. Here go one chip, there go one chip. Is it normal? Oh, this is normal. This is made in Germany, normal. So I bought it. So my advice, band directors or students, don't anyhow go shop. I mean, now it's better already than 20 years ago. So don't anyhow go and buy a reed. Get advice from people. Or you want, you can get from me also, or Mok Chong.
Or me.
Under
AYT Reads, yeah. And you can find it on Facebook too. A bit of advertisement. Haha.
Well, so talking about reeds, like what Mok Chong say, is quite sensitive, and the humidity and the environment kind of makes it a bit difficult to handle the reeds. What are the best ways to keep it optimal for the student?
I think in general, I always try to keep my reeds dry, as dry when I'm not using it. So like the problem with a lot of Singaporeans, the band students, the Singapore schools band students, is that they tend to keep their reeds in a place where it's very moist and there's no ventilation, and then the reed stays wet for very long. So there's a lot of problems with that. Like firstly, the most obvious is of course like bacteria, hygiene, this kind of thing. You must understand that you put it in your mouth, and then this whole virus thing, we should know that a lot of things can enter through our mouth, right? Like germs, that kind of thing. So yeah, first thing is a lot of bacteria and even mold can grow when you keep it in wet conditions. So the most basic level of hygiene, the most basic level of reed maintenance is to keep it dry when you're not using it. To let it dry when you're not using it, and like really completely dry. Other things is like, of course, no-brainers, don't swing your bassoon around with your reed, because it chips very easily. Don't throw your reed, don't drop the reeds, those are very no-brainer stuff, but sometimes you still have to say it anyway. Yeah, I think for me, those are the most important things. The wetness or the dryness of the reed. I think that is important for me. Yeah, but anything else from you all?
On the topic of hygiene, right? I have this. Please rinse your mouth, especially after a lot of students, they eat lunch and then they go and like play on their reeds immediately after. They don't rinse their mouth, they don't brush their teeth. Okay, if you don't want to brush your teeth, just get a small bottle of like Listerine or something. After, it will prevent a lot of like mold growth, which will actually like sort of like damage the fibers on the reeds as well. It will change more rapidly. So yeah. Tian?
Great, I agree with all of you. All of you have said everything.
Wait, there's another thing that I forgot. So usually, right, I would recommend that students have more than one reed, if possible, because there's this thing called reed cycling. If you use just one reed and you just use it, it will start to change very rapidly, and then it will sort of like die off in a very short amount of time. Then if you cycle it, you can make the extend the lifespan of the reed, and this is very important, I think, for schools that have a tight budget. Some schools, they have 4 reeds per year, 5 reeds per year. That's, yeah, you have to cherish every reed.
Yeah, so in talking about like extending the lifespan of the reed, right? The whole idea is trying to keep your reed as hygienic, as clean as possible, because the longer it can stay dry and clean, right, the longer it can last. It's also better for the wood as well. Yeah, so there are different ways to clean it. I know that there is like a reed brush that is sold, but I can't, for some reason, I can't find it in Singapore. And
I'll give you one.
Hey, really?
I'll give you one. I got like
I want also.
over 10. Okay, sure. I'll give you one.
Okay, very good.
I'll show you how it looks like.
Okay.
I got a lot. I bought a lot. When I saw it, I bought a lot immediately.
Where do you get it
cannot
from?
find, right?
Yeah, and packs too. Like plug. Just buy more because you lose it.
Yeah, of course.
Mm.
Yeah, so those are really good for you to, like, you know, you can clean it out every time you use, or maybe every 2 times you use. Then that will significantly extend the lifespan. It really affects the lifespan by a lot. You'll be surprised. Yeah.
Maybe for band directors, this is the brush that you should be getting. Okay, if you don't know where to get it, you can go to like mother care or those like baby stuff. They have this kind of brushes for cleaning milk bottles or milk bottle tubes. Okay, perks of being a father. You know where to buy all that. I think Daiso also has
demonstration.
This. Yeah, I can give a
like
slight demonstration. It actually fits the reed perfectly. So this reed, you put it. You wet the reed first, then you push it in. Do not push the brush in when it's dry, otherwise the reed will split in the tip. Okay, always wet both, and then just push in. You will see like sludge, dirt. And just use your finger under running tap, clean it, pour out again, push in, pour out again, push in. Always repeating the cleaning with your finger action. Don't put soap lah. There's no need to.
Yeah.
If you want to, like what Mok Chong said, use Listerine, just brush a bit, or use Colgate, brush a bit. That'll be enough. So you can't claim your brush later.
Okay.
Okay. So just now Mok Chong was talking about a bit of the embouchure. So one of the questions that we had coming in was, how should a general bassoon embouchure be like?
Okay. I take the advice that I have been taught since my first lesson with Daniel. Okay, and okay, actually I don't have maybe I have it. Okay, I don't think I have it now. So basically your mouth, the opening should look like a drawstring bag when you pull the drawstring bag. Right? That's what you used to say, right? Correct. Okay.
Oh.
Really?
Go on.
Okay, sorry.
Maybe your idea has matured already, has refined already.
So okay.
Better.
So that was the first thing that I remember. Okay, and I think in general, like when we see the general embouchure, right? Of course, it differs from like playing different things, but it should generally be like an oval. But when you play, you must think more of like narrowing the airstream instead of flattening out the airstream. So in the end, your end product shouldn't be like a flat line. Like it should be as conical as possible for me. Yeah. And it should be quite the pressure shouldn't be too high. You shouldn't be biting too much. You should be holding the reed with some support. Yeah, that's for me. What do y'all think?
I agree. If I can add in, so O-shape, conical, are all very good ways of saying it. So I like to tell my students O-shape, O. So this is go and screenshot this or video take this for the students. O. Put in half of the reed like here, and then roll your lips in slightly. Okay, bam. I always tell my students, bassoon playing is about 70% air and 30% embouchure. So you use more air. Don't bite so much, like what Li Hui said. Don't bite so much. Of course, high notes you need to bite. Always there's a limit of how much to bite or relax, just like any other instrument. All right.
Yeah. Yeah, so that like what he just said, there's always a balance between like the pressure in your lips and the pressure in your diaphragm or the air. Yeah, and in general it's always safer, it's always more air than lips. But of course in some cases, like you said, you play high notes, the lips need to be a little bit more than usual. Yeah.
I'm sorry, can
yeah.
I add one more thing?
Yeah.
So if you have the correct embouchure when you play the reed, you should be getting somewhere between an E flat note to an F note. So if it's too loose, you get a very flat note, and that's when you know, oh, the embouchure on the student is wrong. If the student is biting like crazy, which I experienced before, and sometimes some set ones do that. The reed sound is very, very high, and that's wrong also. So a comfortable one should be play loud, E flat to F.
So like how, especially when you're looking at someone's embouchure, right? Or if you're a student yourself and you're looking in the mirror, like I think a good way to judge, right, is when you put the reed into your mouth and then when you close it, right? Eventually, of course, because you have to close, you have to seal it, right? So there will be a line, there will be like a horizontal line. But the ideal situation is that this line is as small as possible and it's not too long. So for example, a bad example would be like, so you can see the length of the line is different. Yeah, that's how I usually judge my students' embouchure for me. Yeah. You want to show anything?
You realize I've been very quiet for all this time because actually my idea of embouchure is quite different from both of them. I've realized after traveling quite a lot and hearing many different ideas from many teachers that embouchure is a very like we want to use embouchure to achieve something, achieve a good sound, good intonation. So yeah, as Tian has said, 30% embouchure, 70% air. Your embouchure, there are just a few things you have to take note of that they already mentioned: the pressure, the conical roundness. Yeah, but generally, if you, the embouchure actually can change sometimes. I'm not sure whether Li Hui or Tian will agree completely with me, but for example, if you want to change the sound color, then of course changing a little bit, adjusting the embouchure will help. But of course, generally you should still be doing it with a lot of air. Yeah, but and also I have this other thing about crowing. When I blow onto the reed, I do not go for a single note. I like to go for a multiphonic crow, which means many sounds. So it sounds a bit like this. I'm not sure if it's clear over the microphone, but it's not just one or anything. I usually go for a because I learned this from Giorgio Versiglia, who is the bassoon teacher at the Asian Youth Orchestra. He was talking about how this crow will help to resonate the instrument a bit more, and then with a bit of demonstration on the instrument, yeah, it is very clear that when you have a very relaxed embouchure and you're able to achieve the crow, right? Yeah, then you'll be able to have a big sound lah. But of course, Tian also plays very beautifully, very in tune, very nice sound. So it all, yeah, I think it depends on your own personal sound concept, and who you are playing with. Are you playing chamber music, solo music, and then all these different things are factors that you can like think about when you are thinking about embouchure.
So just now Daniel mentioned that
Thank you.
there are some differences between going higher and lower in the embouchure. Maybe would you like to explain a bit on that, because there's a question about it, like how much difference should it be, and how should it look like, and what yeah, your thoughts on it.
Okay, so when you go higher, you tighten on lips, and when you go lower, you loosen on lips. It's a very simple idea. You just have to do it when you're playing. How tight and from where exactly? I guess from when you go higher is all over your mouth. 360 degrees. Okay, you just tighten like very hard to show. So you just have to tighten more and see if you can get it in tune. It's hard to do it with the physically, right? And then when you go low, sometimes you might have to do a little bit like roll out your lips just to get the very, very low notes on the bassoon. It's a totally different embouchure when you play very low notes. At least 50% different, okay? So you have to, when you play those low B flats in band piece, maybe in James Bond pieces, you got to see your students' lips coming out a bit more. Then you will vibrate better. Yeah. So that's about it.
But I wanted to add something to that. Like all these adjustments, right? I think they are very personal. It depends on your instrument, your reed, and what I see a lot of times students doing is they overdo it. So it's like, instead of just tightening a little bit, like maybe like 5%, 10%, they'll just do like 90%, and then suddenly like it's way too much pressure.
And
so
suddenly the air stops flowing. So that's the
yes,
problem.
exactly.
Yeah.
Because
That's
if you
right.
put so much pressure on the reed, right, then it closes and then no air goes in at all. It's like physics.
Like
So-
everything in life is all about balance.
Yes, all about balance. So you
Wow.
have to find your own
Balance.
like
Life
find
advice
your own
from a
balance.
father.
Yes, indeed.
So moving on from embouchure, like maybe we can talk a bit more about how do you achieve different dynamics in this situation, and how would you approach the very loud and the very soft playing on your instrument.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll start. Okay, so when I need to play loud, like overtures, marches, or anything with fortissimo in Tchaikovsky, Bruckner, Mahler, all this, I would first select the reed properly. I'll choose a slightly harder reed, maybe make it a bit wider, like tip. Maybe you wouldn't understand this, but tip maybe like 15.5 millimeters, and maybe a bit longer, 30.5 millimeters. Yeah, correct. That one. Just make the reed a little bit bigger, and then get a harder reed and get a reed that vibrates well. So it's again up to the nature of the cane. You can't decide that. You have to try different reeds. Of course, most people don't have the luxury of trying many reeds. So before a rehearsal or concert, or I'll just take a few, and usually I can get one loud one. Yeah, and then playing soft, I would also get a reed that vibrates well. So in both cases, you need a reed that can vibrate well right from the start. Then when you play day two, it's going to be different again. Don't worry, just blow into it, just break in, just like how the Queen of England breaks her shoes. All right, so you break into the reed, and then she doesn't break her reeds. She doesn't break her shoes. She gets someone to break her shoes, break into the shoes. Right. So for us, we just blow maybe 3 days, and then after that, you can start to adjust with your knife, pliers, etc. Yeah.
Bok Chong or Li Hui, anything to add on?
Yeah. And like I guess besides the reeds, it's like a lot of like basic fundamental wind playing about how much air you are using, how you control the air, and how it goes into the instrument. Then I'm not sure whether I should talk about this now, but just always talk about more air volume inside the instrument, and that scientifically just makes the playing louder or softer, the air volume. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, okay, both sides, both of them said really great things. So the important thing about playing these extreme dynamics, right, is essentially a combination of your fundamental training as well as in terms of your air and as well as the workability of the reed. So if you have one only and not the other, right, it's not going to work out. You need to have both. Yeah, and on those things you can work on both those things. Of course, your reeds must be good. And secondly, when it comes to your fundamentals, you can always do stuff like long tones on what you want to. This is how we can go into the next topic about like daily exercises. How do you train your dynamics? You can always do long tones like really PPP, and you make sure that the attack of the long note is really soft and the ending is really soft and nice and they're totally in tune. You can do long tones in this way. Like you can do it for a week and suddenly you feel like, oh yeah, soft notes not a problem. This kind of thing will really help, will improve your control of the air and how much air you need to really use for a soft note or a loud note. Yeah. So basically long tone exercises.
Yeah, since we are already there, maybe could you all share with us like what are the simple warm-ups that you do, and maybe how can we improve our tone while throughout this circuit breaker situation? And actually, what are the warm-ups or what are the daily routines that you guys get yourself into, so that we have a variety of exercises that the students can do and improve on during this few month break or two?
Usually, I mean, because like in the last 4 years in YST, I have worked very hard to develop a system for myself in terms of how I warm up and how I practice every day. I mean, okay, I try to practice every day, but I do okay. Okay, anyway, so the thing is, I usually start off in the morning, and like your body is cold, your lips are cold, and your brain, your mind, everything is cold, you know, and I start to do like a very easy warm up. So I start off with long tones first. Yeah, and the long tones are always a very good way to warm up because it's like, to me, it's sort of like a meditation, you know. You just listen to the sound that you're making, make sure that it's really stable and really nice tone, you know. And depending on that period of time, maybe you're working on soft, long and low notes, or you're working on like the swell, you know, crescendo, decrescendo kind, or you're doing like decrescendo only, depending on what you're working on that week. Yeah, so for example, if that week I want to work on like my decrescendo, so my long tones that week I will be doing, I will start loud and then I'll decrescendo soft. But of course, the long notes, I always tell my students I have the same requirements for all my long notes. Okay, firstly, it must be stable, it cannot be shaking. Secondly, it needs to have a good attack and end. Those things are important. Okay, and thirdly, it needs to be in tune. In tune, of course, is very relative, right? But for me, like when I do my long notes, some people might not agree, okay, but I do use my tuner for long notes. Yeah, because I want to figure out where is the center of the note on my instrument. But using tuner for long notes, that's for me that's very important, but some people don't believe in it. Yeah, so that's how I start off my day. I do long notes, and then after that I move on to warm up my fingers. So I do stuff like scales, thirds, fourths, and arpeggios. And usually I don't go crazy and I do like every single key in one day. I usually do 1 or 2 keys in one day and that's it, because that itself takes up a lot of energy and a lot of brain power. So I try not to overwhelm too much in one day. And then after that I'll move on to warming up my tongue, you know. Recently I've been working on double tonguing. So I switched from single tonguing to double tonguing exercises in the last semester. Yeah, so that's usually how I warm up. And then I'll take like a 5-10 minute break and then I work on my pieces. Yeah. So the rest, how do you usually do it?
Mok Chong?
Okay. I think Li Hui brought up some like amazing points about how like we all usually warm up. I also do sort of like the same thing, but maybe I want to take it from the perspective of maybe a student just finished class, then go for band practice. You get your instrument, you only have like 5-10 minutes with it. What do you do? So the first thing that I would do is to do long tones. But in doing the long tones, I like to sort of like do a focus on certain aspects. So focus on your sound, focus on your intonation. Don't just like do long tones. A lot of times students, I'm doing long tones, they just bang, bang, and they go with the motions. But we have to be thinking musicians. You have very limited time. Use that time very wisely. So you don't like just every time you are actually doing something, it's not practice makes perfect. I know a lot of the people say this already, is practice makes permanent. If you are going to warm up in the wrong way, you play your note out of tune, you will play your note out of tune in rehearsal as well. Yeah, if you play with a ugly tone, you're going to make the ugly tone. You're going to reinforce the idea of ugly tone. So I guess it's very important for especially students to use this warm-up time to sort of reinforce the good habits rather than to reinforce the negative ones.
Yeah, true.
So that's a really good point. For me, for warm-ups, I agree with Mok Chong. We have limited time. So if for me, I like to do scales and long notes for starts. Or if you have a bit more time, then you can maybe get this book, J. Weissenborn. I'm not sure you can see it. Practical Method for the Bassoon is very, very good. Even the conservatory uses this book.
Yeah, I have the same book.
Professor Zhang, all right? Everyone uses this. This is like Bible. This is the Bible. I'll let you screenshot this. Okay,
Yeah.
don't get the Opus 8 Volume 1 or Opus Volume 2, get the whole book. Because the whole book has like the basic studies, daily studies, and also the 50 advanced studies. So this is the practical method for the bassoon. All right, and then if you see page 66, so if you get volume 2, you don't have this page 66 to get the whole book. Then you just need to do the first page. All right, if you have time, do a little bit of that, a bit of tonguing, a bit of slurring. And then I have also this daily studies. Again, if you want to, you can get it from me after the live chat. I got it from the principal bassoon player of the München Bayerische Rundfunk, Bay Air. So it's pretty good. There's a lot of triplet studies, a lot of arpeggio studies, and slur tar in 1 or 2 keys. You can do it for all keys, but I think if you just do basically F major, your mouth is very warm up to go for any rehearsal or concert rating. So if you want to have that warm up, just drop me a message.
Good. Talking about different kinds of methods, books for bassoon, are there any recommendations that the other two would like to add to that?
Oh, I mean, I'm sure Mok Chong and we both know this book too well.
Yeah.
It's the Milder Scales and Arpeggios. I mean, according to our professor, that is also the other Bassoon Bible. It's like Bassoon Bible Volume 2. Yeah, the Milder Scales and Arpeggio studies.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's a really good study because it is I mean, of course, it works on your scales, and it also helps you to move through keys or move through like the different chord progressions in a typical, classical piece or anything. So yeah, those are really great. They can be a little bit dry, but it's really important. Yeah.
And a little bit more challenging. So I would recommend it to like more senior students who sort of got it down. So like Weizenborn first, and then after you're done with that, then Milder. Yeah. In that order.
Yes.
So just now Li Hui was talking a bit about doing long notes, and actually she was explaining about how many different kinds of ways you can do it. Maybe would you like to demonstrate something for the audience?
Okay, sure. I have my instrument here. Hang on.
So that they get a clearer idea on what exactly did Li Hui mean by doing long tones in different manner.
Okay. Sorry, let me unplug my. Yeah. Okay. So like a very standard. Can anyone hear me?
Yep.
Okay, great. So like a very standard long tone practice. I would say some accident. Start MF. I'll play MF, hold the MF, and sing the table, and sing. Okay, and nice start and end. Am I breaking up? Okay, can you hear me?
A
right?
little bit.
Yeah. Okay, they better already.
Yeah.
So it doesn't sound very really breaking it up. It's not. Yeah, so that's like a very typical standard long note that I do, just straight, that's basic now. And yeah, I forgot to say this. Okay, like how do you determine how long you should play, right? The long. So for me, it's always as long as you can, as long as your breath can hold. But and a lot of us think that we cannot hold for this. Okay, like how to say, like around like your 60 or 70%, you start to feel a bit like fatigue, and then you think, oh, okay, cannot already finish. But that's cheating. Okay, how long you can hold is really to your 100%. Means the moment you stop playing, you should feel like you're going to fall down and die. So that's the idea of how long you should play the long notes. Of course, there are different ways. So let's say if I want to do like a really soft PP attack, PP ending, you can do. Yeah, okay, I won't hold all the way to the end. So that's an example of a PP, low note, soft note, soft note and long note. Yeah. And then if you want to do the swell, like the crescendo and decrescendo. Yeah, and I think it's also good advice, okay, is that if when you're doing long notes, right, you should roughly know how long you can hold usually on each note, and that will depend, that duration will change depending on which exercise you're doing as well. So if you're doing like a fortissimo loud F, I mean, I obviously you won't last as long as if you were doing a PP low note. Yeah. So yeah, those are some examples. So there's a swell, and then we can do up to decrescendo. Is that okay? Can you
Yes, it was quite good. So now moving on from tone. Just now, you all were talking about the builder skills. A lot of students actually there's one question. How do you keep your fingers active? And actually, what are the simple things you can do to encourage students to keep their fingers more active?
I think definitely all of these like skills and studies help. So whenever you practice all these skills and studies, you're just like building muscle memory into your fingers, and then you will get better as you keep progressing lah. But then also once again, back to the practice makes permanent thing, you should always practice these technical things with a metronome. It is very, very important to do a metronome, especially the bassoon has so many different like combinations. It is very common that bassoonists will get a lot of trips, and yeah, because of all the thumb movement, right? This thumb has to control 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 keys, just one thumb. So the accuracy of the finger work is very, very important. Yeah. So
Yeah. So what are the different kinds of different fingering or alternate fingerings you can use in different situations?
Okay.
I think okay, before we go there to the alternate fingering world, because that will take some time. I think I also wanted to add on to about your finger movements in general. Yeah, so I feel like a lot of students always ask me like, oh, how do you run very fast, run very slow or whatever. I mean, not run very slow, sorry. How do you run very fast or like move very nimbly, without any accidents? Of course, like all the things you've been saying, it starts from your basics, your fundamentals, right? Going slow is super important. But you must understand that like whatever that you do slow, it will extend to what you do fast. And when you're doing it slow, you have to be really careful about how you move. I think something that Mok Chong actually himself taught me when I was in year 1, as a student. I don't know if he remembers. But what he taught me is that sometimes we lift our fingers very high, and even when we don't lift very high, right? Even we lift like maybe midway, right? We are still lifting higher than we need to. So you need to remember that there are some general guidelines about how your fingers should move. Is that generally it should be relaxed. It shouldn't be too tense. Okay, you shouldn't be gripping onto the holes on the keys. Okay, and secondly, your fingers shouldn't lift high. It should be as low as you need it to be. Yeah. So those are the few guidelines for finger movement. But the really important thing also must be relaxed. Yeah. We have lost someone. Can we add him back? What happened to him?
Oops.
Okay, so anyway, there's a small technical issue, so we are trying to get Ao Yong back, but let's talk about the different kinds of fingerings that you can use in maybe situations like playing soft, playing high, or playing loud. What are the different kinds of fingerings that students can explore?
I guess that if you want to talk about fingerings, right, there are two sort of alternate fingerings for me personally. There's one that changes the color of the note. So like for example, if you want a more open color, if you want a darker, a brighter color, or easier attack, whatever, different fingerings will work better. So for example, the most I'll say the most common one is the tenor F sharp. The tenor F sharp has four different fingerings, 4 or 5 different fingerings. I usually switch between three of them. So should I demonstrate or should I just talk about it?
Yeah, just demonstrate.
Okay, so basically, for F sharp, right? So y'all can see the finger. So this is the first F sharp fingering that I use. It's the G without the pinky. So this one obviously is for ease of fingering. So you can trill between F and G very easily. Okay, then there's this other one that I just show you. It's the left hand second finger, and then the right hand 1, 2, and 4. Yeah, and then this one for me has a much easier attack. So for example, if I try to articulate very rapidly on this one, sometimes it wouldn't work lah. Then meanwhile, if I want to go fast tonguing on the second fingering, then it's a bit easier for you to do it. But obviously the difficulty in this is that when you are trying to go from, for example, G to F sharp, and you are using this very difficult fingering, then you'll get something like, which is very, very awkward. Yeah. So yeah, this is just one example of like alternate fingerings. So when I think about alternate fingerings, I'll think about what color am I trying to achieve? And then yeah, your teachers can help you much better with this in your lessons. You can, if you encounter difficulties, your teacher can obviously suggest fingerings for you to achieve either a smoother like technical flow or, oh yeah, sorry, I was talking about color. And then the second type of alternate fingering is for technical efficiency. So for example, the F to A flat, the low F to A flat, if you want to do a normal fingering, there is, if you look here, I'm not sure if I can show it, you have to do this action, F to A flat, a normal F to A flat. So it sounds like this. It's impossible to get it properly because it's the a sliding of one pinky. So therefore, we will use the A flat on the back of the instrument. So you can see it's much better when you go. Yeah. So these fingerings, alternate fingerings, can also help you to maybe overcome any technical hurdles that you may have. Yeah, so Li Hui, anything else?
Yeah, talking about fingering, since you're on this topic, right? Also, I noticed that a lot of the band students, they are not, even don't talk about alternate fingerings, like you talk about the basic fingerings. A lot of things that are missing is things like the half hole, and also the speaker keys, the thumb speaker key, your left thumb speaker key. So, like for example, right, talking about the half hole, there's sorry, there is the top here, this hole, the highest one, that is the most sorry, yeah, so that's the hole that will have the half hole issues. Like for example, you have this half hole, right, and you have different range of how open that half hole is depending on what note you're playing. So F sharp is always the least open, as in the smallest opening. G, I would say, is about half, and A flat is the biggest opening. Yeah, so of course it depends on what instrument you play, and it varies on the different instruments, but you have to experiment with that size of the half hole. And the speaker keys on the front, the side that faces you, the speaker keys, those are really important. I feel that a lot of the students really don't really care about this part, because they feel like, oh, I can make the sound, can already, But when you get to more sensitive parts of the music, right, and then you realize that you need to use this, it's already too late because you don't have the habit of using it. Yeah, so I always think it's important when you're doing scales, or even when you do long tones, you need to emphasize that these speaker keys have to be used at all times, as much as you can. Yeah.
They are not optional. They are
not optional. Yeah, so these keys, this one, the biggest one, the middle one is for A, This one for B flat. This one can also be used for B flat, depending on your instrument. B flat, B, C, and this is for D. Of course, D for me is optional. I sometimes don't have to use the D one. Yeah. But A and B flat is definitely not optional. Yeah, so those are the few things that always comes up. It's the speaker key and the half hole.
Oh, and also to add on to the sort of like half hole debate, yeah, definitely use your half hole, and there are varying degrees of half hole. But please practice your half hole in front of a mirror, because I don't know how many times my student tell me, oh, I'm doing half hole, and then I just see like, no, there's no half hole there, because what you feel and what you see are very different. So practice your half hole in front of the mirror to get a more accurate sort of technique. Okay.
Okay, so just now Mok Chong was talking about articulations and the different fingerings to use for different articulation. There's actually a question on articulation, like how do you get different kinds of articulation, like crispy, bouncy, or staccato accents, that kind on the bassoon?
Maybe Tian is back, so he can.
Yeah, back. After dinner already, everyone go watch TV. That's why no internet. Staccato. There's a different types of staccato. So it's very hard to say also and do it. Depends on your piece and what you're required from your band director. Okay, I think a standard staccato will be just like ta, ta, ta. If you can do that, you can basically make all the band directors quite happy, right? They won't ask you to play like super secco or just this like this. I will just show you. Okay, again, it's very hard to understand just by me doing that. So you have to just ask your student to say ta, 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 and use enough air. Remember, 70% air and 30% embouchure, right? So about air. Air plus ta, ta, ta. That's it.
Mok Chong, Li Hui, anything to add on?
Yeah, I think for articulation, it's very hard to say over video, talk about like how you should do it. But the general rule for me is use your air to change the way your articulation sounds on one, and it's a balance between your air and also the way you tongue. So it's both things. A lot of us are very concerned about how the tongue moves, but actually the tongue moves when the air supports the tongue. So yeah, it's a bit technical to talk about it here, but maybe I would say you should I would say as students you should experiment on your own. Find out things for yourself first. Then you approach your teacher about how you really do those articulations. I mean, maybe that will help. Yeah.
Yeah. So what are the different kinds of things that you will experiment with in general?
Yeah, that's a good question. So for example, like how fast your tongue approaches the reed and how fast it leaves. So the speed, I call it the tongue like speed, the way it moves, how fast it moves, and also how you shape the air. If you think of the note as like a shape, right? Like a physical shape, how would you change your air or maybe change the way you move the cavity, to shape that air? Yeah, so yeah, it's a bit of experimentation because sometimes different people have different mouths, different tongue, it's not very easy to say what you should exactly do. Yeah. But yeah, the rest?
Mok Chong, any thoughts?
As in like, yeah, definitely I agree with the tongue articulation being a combination of the tongue and the air. So actually there's one thing that I always like to do with my students. So normally a lot of problem with playing soft bassoon in band is that you get this, they try to play but no sound comes out, right? And you are like very frustrated, like I'm trying to play piano and then there's so much risk involved in the note not speaking. So actually that is mostly because of the air issue. When the students don't use enough air, they just tongue, then it always ends up being like they can't do it properly. So I would suggest that you use your air to start the note first. So you sort of know how much air you need to start the note. Then after that, you can add in your tongue. So you can start with the appropriate amount of air also. And you get a clearer articulation, of course, and the note speaks easier.
Yeah, of course, all this advice is great, but you won't be able to carry out this advice, right, if your reed is not vibrating.
Yeah, that's true.
That's the disclaimer, okay? The disclaimer is your reed has to be vibrating. If not, you do all these things,
Yeah.
it also won't come out one.
Okay, so now there are some questions that has come in, and actually one of the questions that came in was from Shirley. She asked whether how much does a good does a bassoon cost, like for a beginner bassoon, and how much should you spend, and generally how long will it take for students to grow out of it?
I think Daniel would have good advice.
So I'll be looking for a very cheap bassoon for all my students. I think I found one I'm bringing in from overseas, and it's cost like 5,000 plus. And it's better than some of the brands that they're selling in the market. Shall I mention which brand? And it sounds good, and it's a professional keywork. So I think that will last you a good 5 years, 10 years. You want to play until you're working, that's fine too. So 5,000, I'm sorry, that's the cheapest it gets for bassoon. It's just expensive. There's so much wood, so much of the drilling on the hole, so much metal, so much precision, so much metal. So for a price, for one thing you want to get, you got to pay the price. If you get 2,000 plus or 1,000 plus from eBay or whatever outlets, there's a possibility that it might be terrible, and out of tune.
Yeah, I mean, okay. So as to address Shirley's question about how do you know like when the student has grown out of it? I think for bassoons, right, you make the change of bassoon when you decide. It depends on how you, on what role does the bassoon play in your life. So if you're going to do it professionally, of course you can't live on the $5,000 bassoon. I mean, okay, maybe you can, but of course you can, but you wouldn't now. Of course, for the sake of a career, you would upgrade to a professional model. Yeah, but of course, if you're not planning to do it professionally, like most of us are, we are just playing it for our own hobby or as a side project, then you can use it for as long as you feel that it serves you, assuming that it's well maintained, of course. Yeah, if you send it for good maintenance every few years and you take care of it, then it can last you a very long time. Yeah, but the change of the bassoon, or how you mean by growing it out, it depends on what you want to do with the bassoon, essentially. Yeah.
Okay, so another question relating to bassoon, the instrument itself. Like usually bassoons come with 2 vocals. So which one do you usually use in general?
Use the one.
Yeah.
One.
Right?
One.
There's no real difference. One, because maybe most people are flat when they start playing the bassoon, so one is sharper. But again, if the 2 feels better when you play, use number 2. There's no real difference. Yeah. Also choose the one that it's not bad, it's not crooked, and also like it's clean inside. Because sometimes when you use a vocal brush like this, I recommend this one, Yamaha vocal brush. Okay, when you clean it inside, once I a student, wow, inside when you took it out, it's like 20 years never cleaned before. All the sludge, green, black, blue, brown, all come out. Terrible.
Got ecosystem inside one.
Ecosystem, yes, you're right.
So yeah, the vocals is it's hard to say lah, because it depends on who has been using the instrument, and then how has it been used, and yeah, it depends on a lot of things. But assuming that, let's say it's a completely new instrument, you just take out the vocal is totally new and they're all not spoiled or anything. Like what you said is true lah. Number 1 is actually shorter, a little bit shorter than number 2, so it's a little bit higher than number 2. By right, that's the difference. But of course, there are a lot of other factors that affect it. Yeah.
Another thing is that there's another question.
Just use one. One is better.
Yeah, one.
One is like number 1. Singaporeans all want number 1.
Okay.
Okay, so there's another question on, because we're talking about students also, right? There's a question on whether does the hand or the finger length going to affect you when you're playing the bassoon, because the bassoon is quite big in general also.
Yeah. I think as long as the main thing is just being able to reach the holes in front comfortably while still being able to press this key at the back So if the student is unable to do so, right, then obviously the fingers are too short. Then it wouldn't. Of course, there are bassoonists with short fingers, and there are bassoons made specially for bassoonists with short fingers. But if you are finding a beginner and don't want to go through so much trouble, then you should get someone who is able to reach comfortably. And in fact, right, there's also such a thing as having too long fingers for bassoon. Like, yeah, so for example, I have a bit too long, my fingers are a bit too long, so it's not comfortable for me to hold the instrument like that. If you can see, wait, I can't, yeah, it's a bit like crooked. So I have this little thing here to help me balance it out. It's called the my grip. So if your student is having trouble like holding the instrument properly or having tension in the left finger, then you can think about getting this thing. Yeah, that's it.
Anyone want to add on?
I just want to add on. Sometimes when the student is too young, I have a couple of young students. Okay, my internet is unstable again. So I don't know where I should stay. Okay, so sometimes when the student's too young and the fingers are too short, they can consider playing the Pagotino or the mini bassoon or the small bassoon, right? I think sometimes some people some bassoon play in Mahabodhi. They have this very small bassoon. That's not a Fagotino and that's not mini bassoon. That's just a small bassoon, a shorter one. Maybe, wait, is it small bassoon or mini bassoon? But that's the correct size when you're starting out and you're too small with your fingers and also with the weight. Weight is very important. So even if you can reach it, but if it's too heavy, then I think you should get a bigger size person to play, right? Just like tuba. You don't give a tuba to a small guy, but don't beat me up for that.
Now, and maybe the last question for today is from Jeremy. He asked, what is the correct way of wearing a neck strap? And any other points to note, like when you're wearing a neck strap?
We can talk about the different types of straps now lah.
Okay.
Yeah. So of course, like Mochen and I, we are wearing a harness. A harness. And Mochen, turn around. You can be the model. Turn around. Okay. So yeah. So this is a very typical harness. We call it harness, and there are different brands of harness, and the way they make it is a bit different.
And different sizes.
Yeah, different sizes.
You just hook onto the instrument and just play it like this. Yeah.
So actually, there are a lot of different contraptions for this strap thing. I mean, I've seen people in Europe, they use like this weird thing that goes down the middle. It's like another kind of strap, I think.
That's a Zapatini.
Yes. Yeah.
There's also other brands, similar ideas. You can ask saxophone players.
Jazz Lab or something. Yeah.
So in general, that's the harness. The harness is like meant for standing up. It's set for playing when you stand up. And then
actually, most of the students don't play when they stand up, right?
Yeah, they don't. Yeah. So there's a seat strap option, which Mokshan, you can show them. You have, right?
Yep, I have it here. It's here. Yep.
Yeah. And
so
then
basically, there's this cup. Yeah, and then this cup sort of like fits into the bottom of the instrument, and then you just put it on wherever you're sitting and just adjust it. Like if it's too low, then you pull it up. If it's too high, you push it down.
Yeah, so in general, a lot of band directors always ask like, should we use seat strap or harness or neck strap? I think for like band students, it's good to use seat strap because you don't have too much tension on the rest of your body. But there is I feel that for me, there is one downside of using the seat strap is that your left hand gets a lot of weight because of the way the bassoon falls when you use the seat strap. Yeah, it lands a lot on your left hand. And then also the left hand needs to move, right? So sometimes it kind of gets stuck when they get tired in their forearm. Yeah, so that's the only downside. And some people, if they want to, they can use both. They use both the neck or the harness and the seat strap if they're going to be there for a long time, because it helps. Then the harness will help to alleviate the left hand tension. Yeah, in the long run, it's also not good for your hand lah. Yeah, so that's one option. And then another very popular option I see in school is the neck strap. It's the one that is only on your neck. For me, like I don't encourage that at all for students because I feel that it's really too little already to support. But I don't know what you all think.
Too much pressure on the neck as well. I actually have experience with the neck strap, and not just like health concerns in the future, but if you want to talk about like being able to be technically flexible, the weight distribution of the instrument on your whole body is just not optimal to play with a neck strap. Yeah.
The neck is only, that means the one that only surrounds the neck. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, Daniel, you anything?
I agree with you. So I think the harness is the way to go. Don't get straps. Neck straps are bad for the neck and for the spine and for the student. Maybe it works for saxophone, but not for us because our instrument is much heavier. Sit strap, I will encourage for sitting down. There are some good things about sit strap. There are also bad things. Like what Lee said, there's a lot of stress on the left hand. But if you lean your bassoon on the right side, then this problem is easily solved. Again, this is quite technical. So the way to go is harness. That's my opinion. Yeah.
Good. So just so that we can close this panel up, what would be the one thing that you guys will encourage all future bassoonists and students who are looking forward to carry on with their bassoon life journey in playing the bassoon? What are some of the encouragement or tips that you can share with them based on your own life experience?
I guess
that,
yeah, I guess what I would say is don't give up, because bassoon I think is one of the instruments that's very, like, it's a late bloomer of sorts. Bassoon, the learning curve is very steep, and it doesn't sound as good as some other instruments when you first start out. But I think I think the bassoon has the potential to be one of, like, you know, the most beautiful instruments. You go online, you see soloists like Azzolini, you see soloists like Matthias Rax, Dakiansen. I'm just throwing random names.
No, you're wrong already. It's not had the potential to be the most nicest sounding bassoon instrument. It's the nicest sounding instrument of all.
The nicest sounding instrument.
Yeah, no, it has a potential.
Yes. I disagree.
Are the best.
As a bassoonist, I disagree. Okay.
Okay, admin, please kick us out.
Fake bassoonist. Yeah, so that's all I have to say, like, don't give up.
Yeah, I for me is the best advice I can give you is like it applies to other instruments also. You know, is work on, if you want to improve quickly, work on your fundamentals. That's the most important thing. That's the bottom line. The foundation is very important. So when we talk about foundation, it's not just how you play, how you work your air. I mean, those are obviously obvious fundamentals, but it's also your reed making as well. So I would say, like, if you want to continue in the long run, work on your fundamentals as well as your reed making skills. Yeah, for me lah. Okay, yeah. Then we can go on to the oldest one because he's obviously the most experienced, right?
Sorry, I don't have any life experience because I'm not old enough.
Wow.
Actually, thinking about this question, it reminded me when I was a Set 1 band student. I was like, don't know what to do with my improvement. I don't know how to improve. Nobody asked, nobody to tell me. No such media like BDAS. Maybe there were, but it was not so publicized heavily. So now I'm glad all these things are coming out for students, for band directors to learn about. So for me, I would just tell you, maybe just explore all possibilities when you are playing. Be it finding a new reed, be it changing to another bassoon in your band cupboard, be it changing a vocal, be it using a different swap. Just try, or using a different book, or just go in Facebook someone, Facebook me, Facebook Li Hui, Facebook Mok Chong. Just ask, sir, ma'am, how do I do this? And then ask them to demonstrate. Be whole LP, be thick skin. Ask them, all right? Just ask them. Okay, reeds, maybe you can't do anything because it's dangerous, and plus your mom and dad and stitches might kill you for having a reed knife. So just do what you can at the point of time.
Yeah.
And don't give up, like what Mok Chong say.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I was in Sec 1 also, and then like I have all my friends in band, right? And then people learn flute lah, learn saxophone, and then they learn very fast. Suddenly in the span of like 1-2 months, they can play like the notes. And then I'm just sitting there, and I cannot even play like properly like 5 notes or something.
You never find me earlier.
Yeah, actually, I should have found a teacher earlier. Honestly, I really should have.
Oh yeah, get a teacher.
Yeah.
If you can.
Yeah, earlier. The earlier the better. Okay, anyway, and then I'm just sitting there. Yeah, continue.
Go ahead first.
Yeah, so everyone was playing, and then we had sectionals, right? Sec 1 sectionals, and they always like gather, and then they'll play some piece that we are learning together. And then I'm the only one there sitting there, not being able to play along. And and that's very frustrating. So like to add on to is to talk about Mok Chang's point. Yeah, just don't be too discouraged at the beginning, because at the beginning is always the most difficult. Yeah. Okay, continue. Sorry.
I forgot what I don't say already.
Okay.
Okay, so let's give a round of applause to the Bassoon panel for being here and
Thanks for having us.
sharing your life journey and your insights and your tips for the students. So this concludes the Bassoon panel of Online with the Pros, held by Band Directors Association Singapore. You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram. The next session will be on with the conductors. So we have 4 very experienced conductors that are going to be on at 7:30. Be there, and we will try to talk about the different kinds of things you can look out for, or how to help your juniors and everything from a band director's perspective. Okay, good. So see you at 7:30. Bye.
Is there going to be part 2?
Bye.
Bye.
Is there going to be part 2?